Right, so we're going to go into tips and tricks. David, to start for that one.
Okay, good evening. I'm David Wood, and I've just got one tip and trick, which is a quick look at pipes for architects, not for MEP people. So, if you want to draw some pipe, like some drain pipe, in your model, so you can see where it's going to be. Here I am in an architectural template. I can go and try and draw pipe from the services part. Now, you can see I've drawn my first bit of pipe, but it doesn't seem very happy because it's got a no entry sign. I can't draw any more pipe. And I don't really know why, because I'm an architect and it's pipe. Okay, the architectural template is not really set up to create pipe. The reason being that you've got a pipe in here, but in the property, the type properties of the pipe, you can see it hasn't got any fittings. It hasn't got any bends, any junctions, it can't do anything. So when you try and do anything other than straight pipe, it just says, can't do it. So, quickly, you can start with the mechanical template instead. It's one of the built-in templates. And the great thing about that is it's designed to do pipe. Obviously, you can copy the bits out of here into your template or into your project. There are two types of pipe in the template we started with, plastic and ordinary. And in here, you've got all the junctions you might need, or some junctions, so you can actually draw some pipes. That's a really good start. The MEP guys are just looking at me like. However, you've got to set your view to fine detail to show the size of the pipe. Otherwise, you just get a single line, like you do with structural beams in a coarse view. Single line. So it's got to be fine level of detail. Then you can draw your pipe, and lo and behold, you can get pipe bends in there. Fantastic. That's most of the tip and trick. There's one last little bit. That's fine if you want to draw a pipe at one level, but very often if it's a drain pipe, you want to draw it vertically. I'm not going to cover sloping pipes. I find this bit is really tricky, but you need to use apply. So I've drawn some horizontal pipe at 300. I'm going to change the elevation offset to 2750, then click apply, and you'll see it's just generated a piece of vertical pipe. Then I can snap onto the top of that vertical pipe and carry on drawing sideways. There's a couple of videos on the web that you can find that show you how to do this. That's where I learned it from. I think Matt Binimble has put one up. You can try drawing it in elevation, but it's not so good. This is really clear if you can get that apply to work in the right way. You can really draw some quick pipe where you need it. That's me. Cheers.
Terry? Yep. Okay, so when you go to the next slide, it should start playing automatically.
Ready for the next slide.
Just press the right mouse button. Right.
Okay. Hi, my name's Terry Foster. I'm the Revit and BIM manager at Calder Peel Architects in Altrincham. Just briefly, because I know we're short on time, what I've been tasked with at the moment is not only implementing the BIM level 1 and 2, setting up standards, working on how we model in practice. So there's a few tips I'm going to show, and the things we're aiming for is keeping the level of detail and development under control and file sizes down, and kind of modelling to a maximum. I apologise for the speed these videos are going to move at. So this first one is it's a really simple one. It's been out there. It's about creating a graded approach to a building. There's a few ways to do this, and I'll be showing. Obviously, we know we can use a ramp, which is going to take you in setting the levels. You're going to quickly sketch that up. And one of my favourite tools is the align tool. I always just kind of model and draw in 3D and align things up. So we know we can do a ramp. Always gives you the railings. You can kind of modify that out, but just for speed, I've left it, and you end up with a ramp. Now, that's never really the condition you're going to get outside of these kind of buildings. You still need to kind of ramp from east to west. So an older version of this I've seen done with roofs, floors. In this case, it's showing you're going to try the same thing with a ramp. You're going to be limited with the slope lines where yeah, you can draw a slope line, you can curve a ramp, etc. But you can only really put one on, so you can have the same kind of problems as a ramp, less functionality. So the kind of tip I'm using here can be a floor or a roof. I'm using a roof because I prefer the functionality for certain things. Basically, I've got a roof. I've renamed the structure. I've edited it, turned it into concrete. Remembering to tick the variable tick box. It's important when doing these things. Again, loving the snaps that are in Revit because it's just going to snap, quickly set my dim into there. And as I say, I know you can do this with a floor. I've used a roof for this example because for tapered insulation, etc., you can use this. So we're going to go to the modify sub-elements, more over the split line. And I'm simply just going to sketch, snapping again like Revit does well. What's going to be my level kind of landing outside. So I'm going to sketch that across. And then I've got additional nodes that I can control. And as I say, this can be done with a roof or a floor. I'm using the roof for this because I like a few bits about it. So then going into modify sub-elements, you can grab the whole line or you can grab the individual points. Now when I put a dimension in, I Control A, Control C, it's a clipboard, just so I can Control V into my dimensions as I go around. Again, it kind of speeds up the modelling process. So as I say, this is a really simple version that I'm doing. You can kind of sense the application for this in more complex kind of things, but it's just a really quick way of creating a kind of, you know, a graded approach to different directions. Now, using the line work tool, as was mentioned earlier, a lot of people use the line work tool to make it invisible. Not a lot of people realise you can use any given line weight. Here I'm using the hidden line weight, so the way I want to show this conceptually is just a dotted line. So with the line work tool, I'm basically doing that. I'm just changing those lines to dashed, and that's going to make it appear as that. And again, it says just to remember to tick the variable tick box when you're changing the structure. So I say a quick one. It's quite simple, but it's something I think a lot of people overlook. It wasn't available in earlier versions. So the next one again is something I saw kind of advocated here before, which is using Curtainwall to host timber frames or using it as like a digital skeleton. So we kind of all know about this trick, but what I'm trying to teach people at the moment is how to speed this process up. So I've just basically set some grids at 300. I could program all this into the Curtainwall, but we all know you can draw a Curtainwall, set your grids, sketch it. Now on the mullion placement, I always do all grid lines, mainly because with a few little kind of tricks, you can just take those off. So here, right-clicking on any part of the actual Curtainwall, you can be able to right-click all the mullions or the border mullions. So you see I've just deleted the border mullions off it. All we want are the verticals. And as we all know already, you can sketch the shape, edit the shape. Now the panels here, you can tab through. Once on the glass, you can select all of the glass at once. Now the reason I left that in is because in certain views, and I like to work in 3D, the grid lines are quite hard to grab hold of. So I leave the glass in and then delete it all out at the end. And as I said, I've not really edited this much. You can draw it kind of that quick. And again, playing with mullions, you know, if you want to, in this case, I've created a sleeper retainer wall. I've just set up my grids and a mullion, customized it to be, it's no longer a curtain wall, it's just a host for what I want. So again, we can do the same thing with curves. Most people know in curtain wall, the more segmented the curtain wall is, the better the curve's going to look. So, you know, don't be scared if you do a curve and it's boxy. So again, with this 300 grid, applying a 300 mullion, it's essentially just, that is what I was intended to be, a curved sleeper retaining wall. So I can drag and, you know, pull that about, noting that you can't edit a curved curtain wall, not in the same way that you can, you know, your straight pieces. The alternative is obviously doing a mass in place or any kind of curtain grid. Now I've just thrown this in because it's in the next one, showing that locking 3D views helps you to tag the materials in there. So the last bit that I'm going to just go on with these curtain wall bits is quick frame, stud frame. Most of us won't use this, but it's handy to know you can. Again, the exact same principle of just hosting. Here I use the align, multiple align, moreover, because I like to just align all of my surfaces, then lock them. So I'm kind of constraining that. And I know this kind of frame is going to get much more complex. So again, I'll go to the mullions and I'll mullion all of it with a 150 by 50s. So I've essentially created a bit of a box in timber stud work. Now, before I do the next bit, this is quite an obvious one, but it's clever enough to know that when you're removing certain mullions on joints, it's going to refresh and change the condition. I'm removing them, I've got a nice mitre, So if this is a kind of, vertical, like cedar bar or something, you're going to be able to do these kind of corner wraps of timber really quickly. So using the applied grid line, again, going to just one segment, you can see here I could stagger it and I place little lines to host mullions. And again, at the end, I'm just going to select all of the glass in it and just remove it. So as I say, it's quite a simple one. That's just a way to speed up working with Curtainwall. I know a lot of people kind of overlook the little, it's always a tick box, it's always a right click. And I think it was 6 months in before I realised I could right click and select all of the glass. So that speeds up modelling for that. Now this one is a little bit different in, again, it's something you may already know, but what we're trying to show now is how the industry changing, where we're starting to provide details and certain key bits of annotation in 3D. It's not as fandangle as it seems to be. So in this one, I'm going to be using a wall and taking advantage of the Create Parts tool in the wall, but not for the reasons a lot of other people do. So I've got a client, I want to see exactly what his ICF or his wall type is going to be. So I'm going to use the Create Parts tool. So in creating the parts, as some of you may know, you can then start to divide the parts. Once you do, you can sketch and start to change the way that is. Now, with most 3D modelling, it's worth remembering that you're going to want to set your work plane, because that tends to dance around. I always do it just to be sure. And you can guess what I'm going to do. I'm pretty much going to mimic what you used to see in those old ISO details in CAD I always liked, where we've seen a cutaway of a wall. So in the time it's taken me to do this video, we're basically going to prepare a small detail just to convey, in this case, the makeup of the wall. So I've left this going, as I say, noting that I've gone from the curved line, left the chain on, switched to the straight line. So I could have sketched this quicker, I bought myself talking time. So the green line confirms the shape fit, and then in finishing that off, it's still there, the part. So you're just going to exclude the part from the wall. So with that excluded, you're getting that cutaway of what we can see is actually an air barrier and a bit of ply behind it. So again, we're going to select that other piece behind it and do the same thing again. We're going to divide parts and then sketch a shape. Now, just off seeing the shape I want to achieve, I'm actually going to start to work on the smaller segment. And again, you can probably guess what I'm going to do here, which is draw my lines in. I'm going to use my offset on the actual lines I've already got to pick line and put the shape around there. So I'll do that. Now I'm actually ahead of myself on this. So as I say, I was trying to condense this down, and I've left out a few more advanced tricks because they're really hard. I don't know how these guys get it into 3 minutes. So I've paused there. Is there an unpause button? I thought I bought myself a bit too much time there. There you go. So yeah, just a quick sketch on that, and I'm going to mimic the line I've already got with an offset of 200. And you can see where I'm going with this, but it's just to demonstrate how a lot of this functionality is for a really good reason, but can also be used in almost a design way, especially to convey things to a client I find is most difficult. So in this now, what I was showing briefly before is we've got this view, and I can fancy it up and sheet it up, whatever. But what I'm going to want to do is lock the view. So I've duplicated and locked this 3D view. When doing that, you're going to be able to tag in a 3D view, which you can't do without it being locked. So first I changed the scale, because everyone whinges about the clunky size of text when they're in the wrong scale. So I've gone 1 to 50, and as you can see, we know how these things work. I'm going to tag it. So the end result is I've pretty much just changed the colour of the insulation. I've tidied up these. Again, I could edit the family and make my standard text I like Calibri or something. But I think that's a way of using the Create Wall tool that quickly conveys it. Now, to go back to it, you literally delete the parts and shapes you've created. In doing that, it returns back to its original state. So if you've not used a segment of wall, perhaps you've done it on the side of a building just to pull apart, then in deleting any of those created parts, it's going to know I can't be a wall without my external skin. I'm back, so it goes back to its original state. And that's it. As I say, quick tips, but just things that could speed up a little bit of modelling time. So thank you very much.
And last but not least, Jacqueline. Hello again. So, where's the sound? Can we get sound? just to get an earworm for these guys.
You've got music again.
Yeah, yeah. Very catchy tune. Could you all dance along, please? It makes
Yes,
me happy.
please.
From the start, right?
Okay, so grid is phasing. It's just a workaround. So in Revit, you can select some elements and choose the face created and demolished for each one, which works quite well considering that it's Revit, right? However, for grids and levels, meaning datum levels, the option is not quite available. So here's the workaround on one way of how you could do it. So for instance, for the show complete phase, these are not just getting out of the view. So one way of doing it is to, come on, MP4, yeah. So select the grid, edit the type, duplicate it, and let's just add as a suffix the word existing, because those would be the existing grids, right? Let's do the same for the levels. Okay. Let's add existing. And now that we have two different types for both grids and levels, we can add a view filter, right? In this case, we're going to add a view filter that picks up for all the datum elements. Now the naming for view filters, if you name these correctly, it's easier for the users know with what the view filter is doing. In this case, it's filtering out all the datum elements, in this case grids and levels, whose type name, in this case, ends with altogether existing. Okay. So if you add this to the power of view template that Laura mentioned at the beginning of this session, and you apply these to all views where you don't want these guys to show, you can also lock the face filter to the view template. When you click OK, those are all gone. Okay. For next one, it's going to be on a bit of VR. It's becoming quite frequently that VR is permeating to all the dimensions of everyone's life. And, oops, not yet. Where's the video? You didn't add the slide to the video. Is it the second? No? Oh, here it is. Here's the tune again. Okay. You're going back home with this one in your mind? Okay, so this is just showing for the ones who are not aware of this one. Actually, let me just pause the music. In order for this to work, you need to be signed into your Autodesk ID, which is free. You can just create it by using your email. And when you create it, you get 25 cloud credits, which you can use in higher quality renders, all right? If you're quite keen on the quality of the renders, Autodesk would be more than glad to sell you more cloud credits, which cost £1 each. But you can also get free cloud renders, which are lower in quality, obviously. Oops. Okay, step and round. So, as I mentioned, first sign in to your Autodesk ID before you open the model. Go to the camera tool and place the camera. Now the location of the camera is important, the camera target is not, because you're just going to look at it 360. This is the rendering cloud option, and you choose the stereo panorama as the output type. You can choose to check the box so that you get an email when the rendering is done. You don't need to wait for it. And you can access your renders in your render gallery in the cloud, which you can get access to by signing in to your username. The rendering time depends on model size and render quality. and this is the end result. You have a single location VR, meaning you cannot walk, but you can look around. Now the benefit of using the stereo panorama is that if you open in a regular web browser, you just look around by using the mouse. You can download it, delete it, re-render it, or share it to anyone. So it will generate a web link which can be sent by email. Anyone with this link can access this stereo panorama. So it's a great way to share images of your project with the clients, for instance. You can copy the link. I'm out of the committee next time, okay. So you just copy paste the link to any web browser and anyone with it can just navigate. Can zoom in. This is a lower quality because I use no credits for this one, but it gives you a pretty good feel. And if you open the URL with a compatible smartphone, you can look as geeky as this guy here. And if you guys want to try it, the stereo panorama that I created, if you just get your smartphone and just type tinyurl.com and now in stereo, because it's a stereo panorama, I brought one of these things, which is very cheap. So this one, for instance, costed around 30 quid. You just get your phone here, get this in your head, and you just then look around. If you are too cheap to spend 30 quid on this one, the Google Cardboard, I think it's 7 or 8 pounds.
6 quid in Vienna.
Okay, 6
quid in Vienna.
so 6 quid. So even cheaper. Sold to this gentleman over here. So
It's not even.
so and that's it for